On this episode, we are going to talk about how to really create a habit. I am going to try to drink water every morning. Ever since the pandemic, I'm no longer in the clinic and my schedule, my routine is all off, and I need to remind myself to drink enough water because it is super important for me. So I am going to try to do it every morning when I get up, drink a glass of water, and see how it goes. Okay, so it's day one, and I totally forgot to drink my glass of water this morning. Actually, I didn't forget. I did remember that I needed to do it. It's just I got busy. I was doing a bunch of things, and by the time I had my glass, it was time for my second glass. So I totally missed that extra window in the morning, which is really embarrassing because I'm recording a daily log. Okay, day two was more successful. I did drink my glass of water, so I'm proud of myself for that. We're into day 7. I have been drinking water in the mornings, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. I haven't got the timing right, even though I know when I should be drinking it, but it's not part of my routine yet. But I've had more days when I have it and less days when I don't have it. So this is progress. Hello, my name is Rishma Walji, and this is the XO Conversations podcast. This is a podcast for growth-minded people who want to get more out of life. You can expect interviews with experts, conversations with real people from our XO community, and my unique take on the strategies and action items you can begin incorporating into your life to be your most vibrant self. If you're interested in learning more, you can find us at livingxo.com. How long does it really take to form a habit? Sometimes you hear those words, 21 days, 30 days, 66 days. Different sources have different number of days, but I always wonder, is it really the case that if I tell myself I'm going to get up every morning and exercise, that after 21 days, I will really be into that habit and that will be my forevermore practice? How do we actually succeed in forming one habit, but then sometimes we fail in another? And usually I find I'm much better at forming bad habits, and it's much harder to form good ones. Today, we're going to talk about what it actually takes to form a habit. So how do we actually form new habits? Well, we have to look at multiple factors. First, we need motivation, or maybe we can call it willpower. We need to know what we want to do. We have to want to do it. And then we have to have the discipline to actually get it done. We also need to put in some effort. We need to do the work and actually do the habit, do the action over and over and over until it becomes a habit. We also need a couple of other things that maybe we don't realize are involved in this whole process. So the first one, let's call it a signal, or it's called a trigger or an environmental cue. We need to know that this is when I do this habit. This is when I do this behavior. There's some sort of signal to me, whether it's internal or external, that tells me now I need to do this thing. It also needs a reward. We need to feel like we're getting something out of this habit, out of this action. There's some sort of performance piece. Maybe it's feeling good. Maybe it's some sort of excitement that comes. There's some sort of reward that comes from this habit. So those are sort of the basic pieces that come in habit formation: motivation, effort, signal, and reward. Generally, when we're trying to form a habit, we focus on motivation and effort. We try to make sure that we want it more than the effort involved. There's more benefit than there is actual effort. And we just try to get on board. We're going to do this thing every day for 21 days, and we're going to make it easy to get it done. And we're going to manipulate our environment, and we're just going to make sure that we do it every single day for 21 days. And hopefully by the end of that, it will become a habit. The piece that we often miss, and I think the piece that is the most misunderstood, is the reward. But let's get to that in a second. When you're trying to create a new habit, you think of being motivated. You join a challenge, you get a partner or someone to hold you accountable, you join a team, maybe you join a sport where you say, well, if my friends are there playing, I better go and show up as well. Maybe there's another motivation. Maybe you're going on vacation and you want to look really good. And so that's going to motivate you to exercise or eat well. Maybe it was a negative motivation. Maybe it was you had a health scare and you need to change your habits, clean up your lifestyle in order to prevent anything from happening to your health. Maybe you have some sort of ways of keeping you motivated that kind of go along with a bit of a reward, like you get a check mark and you gamify your life. These kinds of things can sort of blur the lines between motivation and reward, but they make us feel good and they keep us going. And then, of course, we want to make things easy. We look at the effort. We know intuitively that drinking water every morning is probably going to be easier than getting up every morning and going to the gym. We know that different habits require different levels of effort. This, by the way, is actually why it doesn't make sense to me that it takes 21 days to build any sort of habit, because drinking a glass of water should be easier than going to the gym every morning. But that's what we do. We try to minimize our effort. Okay, I need to go to the gym every morning. I'm going to put my gym clothes by the side of my bed. I'm going to put my alarm on. I'm going to maybe sleep in my gym clothes. I'm sure that's happened. I've done that before. Because we know that going for a run in the morning, let's say, takes substantially more effort than drinking a glass of water or remembering to floss in the morning. So we account for the amount of effort and we try to reduce the effort and increase the motivation for enough times that we just keep doing it over and over and over, hoping that we build a habit out of it.
So my name is Tony and I have like an Apple Watch. So I like to fold all my rings. So even if it's like 9 o'clock at night, I go to bed at like 8. Okay. Don't judge. If it's like 9 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God, the red part, which is like movement, is it closed? Oh, I'm exercising because I need it closed. So that's something that like psychological in me, like I need things checked off. I need things to be finalized and then I'm complete. I would do challenges with my friends and my friends are just as crazy as me. So I had a friend who would always, like, she stays up later than me. So she would close her ring like far, like she would have so much ahead. And I'm like, dang, you know what I did? The next morning, I made sure I woke up at 4 a.m. and I walked till I couldn't walk anymore. My feet was like falling off just so I could beat her. But that's just me. I struggle with forming a new habit when I second guess myself. When I think I cannot do something, I struggle with that. Even if consciously or like, I guess it's consciously, I know I can, but in the back of my head, it's like, no, you haven't done this your whole life. This is something new. Why do you think you can do this? Well, that's my subconscious talking to me when in actuality, I can do it.
Usually when we're trying to create a habit, we do things that are going to make us more likely to do that habit. So say, for example, we want to do yoga every day before bed, have a relaxing evening, and then be able to get to sleep well. We might sign up for a membership at a yoga studio or an online platform where we feel like, of course, if we're paying for it on a regular basis, we're more likely to go. We might ask our friends to keep us accountable and we all join at the same time. These are strategies that help us improve motivation. We might try strategies to reduce the effort. Maybe we make sure that the studio is close by or it's online. We don't even have to go outside in order to do the yoga. Or sometimes we try strategies that help us remember how to do this habit. We create a signal or a cue or an environmental reminder. We talk about habit stacking, connecting things together. Essentially, this means what tells you that the habit needs to be done right now. You need a reminder. What is going to remind you to do this habit on a regular day-to-day basis? So if you want to floss your teeth, the most logical thing would be to floss your teeth when you're brushing in the morning. You habitually brush your teeth, and then that is a signal to tell you, okay, now it's time to floss because I already do the brushing as part of my daily habit. Now I'm going to add something else to it. I'm going to floss too. So if it's a small habit and we're wanting to change it, it makes sense to connect it to another habit that we already do. We can just add it into our day. It only takes a few seconds and we're done. But what happens when life gets in the way? What happens when we get stressed or something else happens? We fall off of this habit. This happens more often than any of us care to admit, but it's true. It's hard to keep this going for a long period of time. There are other signals, though, that take us into habits that we don't really realize. So, for example, if you have a habit of managing stress by eating a chocolate bar, then whenever you get stressed, your habit is to go to that chocolate bar. So when you are trying to create a new habit, let's say you want to go to the gym every day, if you feel stressed, instead of going to the gym, you're going to end up moving towards that chocolate bar because you already have an association in your brain that going to the chocolate bar is what you do when you feel stressed. The stress is your signal. The eating of the chocolate bar is your habit. So let's take a tangent first before I talk about reward, because I think this is really the key to habit formation, particularly bigger and more healthy habits. Let's go on a tangent for a second and just geek out on how the brain works. There's this neurotransmitter in your brain called dopamine. It's a chemical released by your neurons. It transmits an electrical signal between neurons from one to the next, and it sends a signal to your central nervous system. Dopamine is involved in a lot of different parts of your body, from learning and motivation, attention and mood, even movement control. But for the purpose of this podcast, we're just going to focus on its role in the reward system. The feeling of dopamine can lead to enhanced motivation, feeling bliss and euphoria. And so, of course, we get addicted to it. We like the idea of having more and more dopamine. So we're looking for ways to get more of that feeling. So whenever you have a behavior that signals some sort of reward in your body, you get a hit of dopamine. If you do something over and over, and each time dopamine is released when you're doing it, it strengthens that habit because your brain creates this association. Oh, this thing rewarded me. I got dopamine. I feel good. It creates a craving, and you want to do it again and again. Interestingly, research also suggests that once you've learned that something creates a positive dopamine hit, or once you've learned that something is rewarding to you, you remember that. So dopamine's also involved in memory and learning. You remember that something created a positive association. So if you were stressed and you ate a piece of chocolate and you felt better, your brain remembers that feeling and it learns that chocolate makes you feel better. So now let's get back into the reward system. Usually when we think of rewards, we think of external rewards. We want to buy this thing. We want to get this check mark. We want to see the number of steps on our watch. These are external rewards. They make us feel good. It's a sense of accomplishment that we've done something, and that makes us feel good, and that is a reward for sure. They even keep us on track and help us stay motivated and increase our willpower. But when I talk about what's missing in the habit formation formula, let's say, I'm not talking about these overarching, more superficial rewards, or rather, let's call them conscious rewards. What I'm talking about is the subconscious rewards, the things that happen in your body when you might not even realize it. It's those rewards that are hardwired responses in your body, things that happen that make you feel good and then make you do something because of that. So if I'm stressed and I eat a chocolate bar, I know it may not be good for me. It may not be good for my health. It may not be good for my sugar balance, but it feels good. And that's why I eat it. Why do our brains even do this? If you think about it, thousands and thousands of years ago, we lived in a world where survival was really important. So we evolved with survival systems. So the reward pathway is actually to help you survive in the world. If you find a blueberry when you're out foraging and you eat it and realize that it gave you calories and sustenance and it tasted good, your brain gets a dopamine hit, and that dopamine is responsible for reminding you that this blueberry tastes good and it's necessary for my survival. I eat it, I feel good, it helps me survive, and I need to remember where I found it so that anytime I need to eat, I know that I can turn to this blueberry. Now you fast forward into our present day where we live in a world of abundance. We can find blueberries everywhere. We can find chocolate bars everywhere. So now when we get a dopamine hit from eating the chocolate bar, it's not actually a survival mechanism. These evolutionary processes that were meant to help us survive have now turned into a bad habit.
Hi, my name is Avery, and I think something I'm really good at is creating bad habits. When my daughter was born, I really relished in this time I could spend when she would fall asleep in the car and I could sit in my driveway and listen to a podcast and eat a donut. And it started to become kind of a habitual daily thing that when I needed a break from newbornness, I would go out for a drive. She would fall asleep. I would get a tea and a donut. I'd come back and park in my driveway. And that was comfort to me. That felt really good. It was like my own me time. Now my daughter is almost 4. And I would say I am now in the habit of wanting to be in my car, wanting to listen to a podcast, wanting to eat a donut, which is great. I'm happy for that self-care me time, but also I think at this point I eat a donut maybe 3 times a week. And as much as I love donuts, that's just like not the habit that I want to have. But of course, trying to break that habit comes with sugar cravings and grumpiness and the loss, I guess, of the thing that brought me comfort for so many years. So I don't know what to do about it or where to go. But I guess that's the habit I've formed. Dopamine. Am I right?
So how do we actually create a habit? This is sort of the epiphany that I came to when I was really thinking about habits and working through habits in my own life. We need to hardwire habits that are good for us. We need to get them so ingrained in our brains that we associate them to something in a positive way and we turn to it subconsciously. In my water example, when I was drinking water in the morning, it's just another thing to do. If I think of it as another thing to do, I'm less likely to create a habit out of it. If I drink water and realize that when I drink water, I feel more energetic, I feel like I can think clearly, I notice my skin glowing. I mean, I didn't really notice it glowing, but I do know that my skin loves water and hydration is really important for my skin. And that feels good. When I think about those things and I really feel like drinking water makes me feel those things, I'm creating a hardwired effect on my association with water.
Okay, so I'm into day 16 and I have been drinking my water most days. I'm going to be honest, not every single day. I do remember, actually, there was one day I actually legitimately forgot. Sometimes it's just that I'm rushing or I didn't sleep a lot or whatever. Things have happened in the mornings, my daughter's sick, whatever it is. But generally speaking, I am drinking my water in the mornings. I'm starting to notice it in my body. So if I don't have my glass of water, I get thirsty. I'm starting to notice that it makes a difference, especially if I have caffeine in the morning. I notice that I need that water and that I get headaches when I don't drink it. So it is starting to show me a result in my body, which is making me more likely to do it.
Okay, I'll give you an example. During the beginning of the pandemic, when there was a lot of stress happening, I started going for walks with my husband. And I should tell you that I'm not a walker. I don't like walks. I've never liked walks. I mean, I get that it's good for me. I get that I go outside and I get fresh air. And I really started doing it because we were at home all the time and not getting our steps. But in the past, I always felt like they were very unproductive. I felt like I should be doing something more intense. I should be working. I should be kickboxing, like something else other than walking, which felt like a very slow activity for me. But during the beginning of the pandemic, we needed to get our steps in. We needed to walk. We needed to move around. And so my husband and I started walking around the block. And it also gave us some time alone where we could talk without the kids around. We could talk about our stress. We could strategize. We could figure out what was going on in the world and in ourselves and with our jobs. And it started becoming something that allowed us to vent and talk to each other and support each other and just take a break from all of the stress that was in the world. And so we started doing these walks regularly. We even walked through the winter, which again is not something that I normally like to do, but they turned into something that gave me significant stress relief. So much so that after a year and a half of walking, I now feel like I am drawn to walking more than I'm drawn to sitting on the couch and watching a movie, which was a different escape for me when I was in stress. I used to feel like I need to just escape from the world and watch some TV and watch a movie. Not that I don't do that anymore. I certainly do. But I'm also now more drawn to create that association. I want to go for a walk when I'm stressed because I feel like it makes me feel better. And that association has become subconscious for me now after all of this time. It took me more than 21 days. It probably took me a year to make that association. And it happened accidentally. But now I feel like walking is a habit because I turn to it when I'm stressed and I don't think about it. I know that it'll make me feel better. So now you're thinking, Rishma, okay, I've tried to create a habit before and I fall off, maybe after 7 days, maybe after 30 days, but I fall off and it never becomes a habit. What can I do to make it a real habit? I think the missing piece, the secret sauce, if you will, is that we don't spend any time trying to make the habit subconscious. We focus so much on making it easy on ourselves by buying the right equipment or laying our clothes out at night. We remind ourselves to do the habit with sticky notes and phone notifications. We even motivate ourselves and will ourselves to do it. If I just stick with it and I just push through it for 21 days, then I'll succeed in making this a habit. The piece that we don't realize also needs to happen is that we need to make that habit subconscious. We need to make the rewards of that habit subconscious. So when we don't have that extra ingredient, that missing piece of subconscious habit formation, subconscious reward system, we fall off because we didn't really create a habit. We created a system, we created a pattern, but it didn't get internalized. And so life happens and we stop doing the thing. We fall off of our habit. And then we fall off after a week or like I did after a day. And we think, oh, shoot, I did something wrong. I can't do this. And we feel bad about ourselves, right? We feel bad about ourselves that we couldn't get it done, that we didn't have strong enough willpower. But if you actually look at the research, willpower is the least effective of all of the strategies because we actually don't have that much control over our subconscious behaviors. So first of all, we have to remind ourselves, myself included, that it's okay if we fall off because we don't actually have that much control. A lot of it is subconscious. And so if you actually want to create a habit that is good for you, we have to retrain our brains. We have to retrain our subconscious. We have to actually believe that something else is better for us. Our coping strategies, our habits, they have to become subconscious in a way that feels good. So how are you going to do this? Let me tell you. This is the part that I really like. This is the part that gets me excited because I'm trying to figure out how to actually make it actionable and accessible. Like, how do we actually make a habit stick? There are 3 pieces, I think, that will really help you create a habit. The first thing that you need is an immediate reward. If you think back to dopamine, your brain likes getting immediate results. Your brain likes getting that immediate dopamine hit. You need to be able to release dopamine. You need to tell your brain, hey, this thing was good for me. I liked it. Do it again. And so if you're listening to your favorite song when you're at the gym, if you're listening to your audiobook and you only listen to one chapter at a time, only when you're on the treadmill, that kind of thing where you're actually stimulating your brain to look forward to it. You're creating a dopamine hit and a quick win, as opposed to trying to go to the gym and not noticing that you're getting stronger and you're feeling fit until 3 or 6 months later. That doesn't help you get that quick dopamine hit, that quick immediate reward. Maybe this dopamine stimulation comes in the form of smaller goals, achievable rewards that you can do on a daily basis rather than something that will take you a week or 2 weeks to achieve, something that allows you to say, I had a success and my brain liked it. The second part is we need to transfer this reward, this dopamine hit, this idea of getting something from this activity. We need to transfer it into a subconscious reward. There's only so many audiobooks you can listen to when you're on the treadmill. There are only so many times you can remind yourself to do a habit or an activity. You need to actually transfer that into your subconscious, which means you have to have positive feelings about the actual activity or habit that you are trying to create. You have to actually believe that that habit is good for you, that habit makes you feel good, that habit is something you need to turn to during your signal. So in my walking example, I started to believe that the walking made me feel better in times of stress. So now the signal is my stress. And instead of trying to escape and watch a movie or eat a chocolate bar, I now want to go for a walk because I have subconsciously internalized the connection between the reward of walking and the trigger of stress. Let's look at it a different way. Let's say you want to do yoga every night before bed as a wind down routine. And let's say you have all of the other things in place. You know what app you're going to be using and you're motivated to do it and you'd like to do yoga every night before bed. Now, let's say that you have a connection in your brain that yoga doesn't feel good. Maybe some time ago you tried yoga and you hurt yourself. Or let's say there was another connection. You tried yoga once before and you were trying some sort of balance pose, you fell and someone laughed at you and that made you feel really self-conscious about doing yoga. Now you're trying to add yoga into your daily habit. You're trying to create a habit out of it. The problem is that no matter how much motivation and how much reduced effort you create, no matter how many signals and reminders you tell yourself, your subconscious still believes that when you do yoga, you're going to be laughed at. or when you do yoga, there is a chance of hurting yourself. If your subconscious believes those things, it's going to be very hard to create that habit. So instead, we have to train our brains to recognize that we like yoga. Yoga brings us relief. So maybe that means you need to do more gentle yoga. Maybe that means you need to do one posture at a time, one stretch at a time, until you realize the next day that, oh, that stretch felt so good. I need to do that again. That was really good for me. That subconscious connection is the piece that needs to really be reinforced. The third piece that's really important is self-awareness. Now, there's different types of self-awareness. We need to understand externally how our body reacts to things. How do our moods change with our signals? How do our hormones and our cycles affect our energy levels? These types of things are important to pay attention to. And there's also internal self-awareness. How are you internally motivated? Are you the type of person who, let's say you want to do a 10K run, you need to have a 1K goal. And then once you do the 1K, you do another K, and then you do another K, eventually moving up to 10 kilometers of this run? Or are you the type of person who needs to have a bigger the better, achievement-oriented, big number where that's going to keep you motivated? You need to understand how your brain and your body work in order to make this work for you. If someone else says, well, I need to have smaller goals, and you're an achievement-oriented person, maybe a small goal seems too piddly for you. If you're a person who's very social, then maybe writing lists and checking them off isn't going to work for you. And instead, you actually need a friend to do this habit with. Recognizing your internal motivation, your external body situation, your life situation, all of these things are really important to make sure that this habit is going to stick. So self-awareness is that last piece.
Okay, 3 weeks. 3 weeks in, I have been drinking my water. Is it a habit yet? I'm not sure. I think it's getting there. I think it actually is getting there. I'm doing it more often. I'm remembering if I fall off for a week or travel or do something else, will I come back to doing it in the mornings? I'm not sure. I think I still need to have it in the forefront of my mind that I want to do it. I don't know if it is a subconscious habit. I don't know if it's something that I automatically do the way that I brush my teeth in the morning. It's something just automatic because it's gross and I have to brush my teeth before I do anything. That doesn't happen with the water, but I definitely do notice when I don't drink it. So I do think it's becoming more of a habit than it was before, which I take as a success.
Let's review. The first one is immediate rewards. The second one is transferring your reward system, your belief about how good the activity is, into your subconscious. Focusing on the things that feel good about that activity and really starting to subconsciously believe that that activity is good for you. Not only good for you, but that you will turn to it in your time of having an environmental cue, whatever that cue may be for you. And the third thing is self-awareness. Thank you so much for listening and joining me with this workings of my brain on habits. I really want to know how habits are for you. So please reach out through my website, livingxo.com. You can send me a message. And if you want to engage with my content in other ways, you're welcome to apply for the XO community. You can also find that on the website, livingxo.com. In the XO community, it's a bunch of amazing women identifying people who love to talk about health and wellness, love to get more out of life. We do social events to connect with like-minded people, and it's ever evolving based on what our needs are and what the community's needs are. So it's always a lot of fun, and we connect more with ourselves and each other. Coming up on this season of XO Conversations, we have other topics like caregiver burnout, meditation for people who don't meditate, how to make affirmations actually work for you. We're going to talk about body love. We have a lot of cool things coming up. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast in whatever app you use to listen to your podcast content. At the end of every event in the EXO community, I always get everyone to share something positive about the topic. And I would love it if you could think of yours and then share it with me. You can reach me on my website. Mine is that I actually now drink more water in the morning and feel energetic. So thank you, because I did this just to record this podcast. I wanted to make sure that I succeeded. And so that was really helpful. Thank you. My name is Rishma Walji. This is EXO Conversations. Thank you for listening. Until next time.